Tick, 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 tick. Boom. Well, this is the show that you guys have all been waiting for. We say it each and every week, but no more. Grant is our guest this week as we welcome each and every one of you to the Meltdown. As always, my name's Tom Finkill. I am your UK flag waver. I am ready to take you on a nice little journey from Manchester to the complete other side of the world as we're going to be talking everything pro wrestling. And today's guest is absolutely legendary. We cannot wait to introduce him. It has been a fun-filled week down on this side of the world. And I'm sat here as the storm is literally lashing at the windows of the UK Batcave, ready to get deep down and into the trenches with two absolute legends. And speaking of legends, there is no bigger legend in my eyes than my tag team partner. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's introduce him. He is the creation of devastation, three-time tag team champion of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, it's Bryan Clark.
There's my hot tag from the Tomcat. Ladies and gentlemen, do not get it twisted. He is the three-time UK host of the year. 3 times. He's doing it, what, each and every night? How many nights are you working, Tom? How many days off do you have? 1, 2, maybe at the most?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, my son says that I have no days off, and he is absolutely bang on. But yeah, we're going to be rocking different stages, about 4 or 5 times a week. So it's always blessed to be able to sit here in studio and chat with you, good sir. It's always good. So what have you got going on this week? It's been big over there, I guess. It's been national. What has it been?
I've been very busy, man. The weather's been great, by the way. 96 right now outside. So big week going into Indianapolis this weekend. So that is a massive show. I don't know, man. It looks, as I look at the roster, I'm thinking that it looks as big as Mania last year at the WrestleCon, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of great guys that are going to be there, and I'm looking forward to seeing as many as I can.
It's going to be epic. The list that we just went through, it was like a full-on school register of icons. So I'm looking forward to the pictures as you guys are out in our social media land. And just as we're kicking things off, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like our channel, make sure you ring that notification bell to get all the good stuff. And we have got brand new content loading up each and every week for you. But let's get prepared, because tonight on the Meltdown, we welcome a man who doesn't just step into the ring, he tears through it.
Tonight's special guest is a 6'8", 270-pound monster, a rare breed in today's wrestling landscape. Not only is he a true big man, but his style is truly unique. Strong style, high flying, death match extraordinaire, and everything in between, because this man can do it all.
He is the Murderhawk Monster, a force of nature who has left destruction in his wake across all elite wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling.
From brutal wars with John Moxley to championship clashes with Cody Rhodes and unforgettable battles against Hangman Adam Page, he's proven time and time again that size, speed, and violence can coexist in terrifying harmony.
Guided by legends like Jake Roberts and later aligning with the calculating Don Callis, his journey has been as dangerous outside the ring as it has inside it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Lance Archer, and everybody dies.
Woo! What's
Welcome
up,
in,
guys?
Lance.
What's up, guys? Can y'all go into Tony's office and do that for me?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That whole intro, maybe it'll step me up somewhere.
we love it, brother. We'd quite happily go and do that in Tony's office, and we need our spot on that new myaew.com podcast list. Let's get that sorted. Welcome to
Right,
the
for
show,
sure.
brother. Welcome to the Meltdown.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
So before we kick everything off, tell us,
Okay.
how's the arm healing?
It's healing. It's taking its time, but that's kind of part of the gimmick, it's doing good. I'm still working out, finding ways to work out around it and do what I can when I can. I think it's probably mostly when I'm sleeping that it's more uncomfortable than anything. But for the most part, it's fine. I can still hit people with it, and I'm good.
So is that cast going to come off at some particular stage, or is it going to be very much the Bob Orton style cast, and that is now the brand new kid?
It may never heal. I may have to wear this for the rest of my career and just bash people across the head with it.
Love it, love it, love it. Bryan, were we ever in that situation? Do we ever have any casts in the Adam Bomb days? I can't remember.
No cast, but I was thinking that, if that was just a little smaller, he could almost do one of our favorites of all time, Iron Mike Sharp, and just leave it on and work with it. I'm just saying,
I'll work with it. It's
Yeah.
them put me in the ring with it. That's my thing.
That's it. You had that on, I think, for a week when I ran into you in Tucson at the show. Is that correct?
No,
Just
literally. Well, I had the cast on for a day.
Okay.
But it had happened about a week and a half prior. So it happened on the 25th of February. I did my first X-ray, and they were like, "Yeah, there's a little fracture there." Ultimately, the fracture that was thought that it was at first was more of a worse fracture because they thought it was a scaphoid, which is a very small bone in the bottom of your wrist. Ultimately, it doesn't have a good blood supply, and it's a hard healer. Went to an ortho, and he said, "No, it's not your scaphoid. It's the radius, which is the bigger bone in your wrist, and that has a better blood supply. It heals better. It was just a fracture, not displaced." And initially, they were just like, "You can just wear a brace," because I had a brace on. And I said, "Well," I was like, "if you put me in a cast, I can actually do more wrestling wise, and I can hit people with it." And he goes, "All right, cool. I'll put a cast on." So it's my first cast ever in my life.
And you can use it to your advantage, so it's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Lance, we're going to get the people at home, all the Meltdown listeners, to get to know you just a little better. I know they're following your career, and we've had some AEW superstars on here, and we are really excited to have you tonight. But before we dive into your pro wrestling career, tell me a little bit, because I was interested. I know a lot about you, but I look back and I peel the layers back, and I wanted to ask you some of these things. For example,
Okay.
Tell me, I'm a little confused. You are originally from where?
My original hometown is called Hearne, Texas. They actually
Hearne.
announced me from Hearne for AEW. It's a small little bitty town near
Okay.
Bryan College Station, and Bryan College Station is home of the Texas A&M Aggies. That's the best location wise I can give anybody that knows Hearne. And there's I guess myself and one other person could be considered the most famous people out of our little town, and he's actually a little slightly more famous than I ever could be. His name's John Randall. He's a NFL Hall of Famer, played for the Minnesota Vikings. He and his brother, Urban, both played in the NFL. But like I said, John had the Hall of Fame career that he had.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable defensive lineman for the Vikings, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
what a career. Yeah. And not a guy he was probably like 6'1", maybe something like that, maybe at the most.
I don't remember how tall he was, but man,
he was
ferociousness
unstoppable.
was unmatched. Yep.
Oh yeah, big time.
Undrafted, and then ultimately became a Hall of Famer.
There you go. So now that we're on football a little bit, this is a perfect little segue here. Tell me about your high school days.
Okay.
And how tall you were when you were in high school, because that's part of my question here.
Okay. I graduated high school when I was 18. I was around 6'5" ish, I guess.
Okay.
I was tall. I think I probably had my biggest growth spurt between my sophomore and my junior year. But I was a skinny mini man. I was probably 6'5", maybe 185 pounds if I was lucky. So, but it was a quarterback, and I just wore the red jersey, and nobody hit me unless we were in a game, and just chunked the ball as far as I could to the people that would catch it, And then my high school career was I the Al Bundy high school career, I guess, because college and nothing in the pros and whatnot. So
Okay. So 3 years at Howard Payne University, correct?
well, 2 years at Howard Payne, and then
Two?
ultimately
Okay.
graduated from what is now called Texas State University. It was
Exactly.
Southwest Texas when I
Okay.
went there, but now it's Texas State.
And you got your degree in English, correct?
I do. I have a BA in English.
All right. So I was just going to I was telling Tomcat pre-show, I was like, yeah, there's not many quarterbacks that are 6'8"
Yeah.
that have made it all time. And it's just, I mean, it's just like it's having a monster back there. And here we are with our own monster, you know?
Right. Just like in pro wrestling, I think the quarterbacks in the NFL have gotten a little bit shorter and just more athletic, faster, and all that stuff. The game is completely changed, and
Oh, yeah.
same in pro wrestling.
Yep, the run pass option that's opened it up for so many of the smaller quarterbacks that they can use their speed.
Yep.
So I absolutely get it. So from the gridiron into the squared circle, you really carved your own path in this industry, Lance.
Mhm.
When did things start to click for you? As far as once you got your feet in the business, when did you start realizing, hey, I like this? I can, I don't only feel this, but I can thrive in this industry.
Right. And the funny thing is it almost didn't happen because like I said, I was playing football, but my
Right.
football career had kind of come to an end. I was working in a nightclub in Austin, Texas. I was a fan of pro wrestling, watching you on TV and guys like Sting and whatnot. Yeah, absolutely. I love Chronic,
Okay.
man. You guys are big and bad and loved watching you kill people. Um, so I wasn't playing ball anymore. I was working in a nightclub. The owner of the club knew I liked wrestling, and a guy started a wrestling school in Austin, Texas. And actually, I got accepted into Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy when he opened his in San Antonio. I would have been a part of the second class, but I'd literally just like a few days prior to his mom, Carol, who was running kind of the financial department of the school at the time,
Right.
she called me to tell me that I was being accepted into the school. And I was like, well, I just had a car accident. I wasn't injured or anything, but poor college kid with a car that was basically totaled. So I didn't really have a way to get to San Antonio from San Marcos. Plus, I didn't have the money because their school was like $3,300 paid off in 3 months. And
Oh,
poor college kid, didn't have that.
yeah.
So anyway, the guy that owned the club that I worked at knew a guy that opened up a wrestling school in Austin. Went in, did a tryout. It was the most painful thing I'd ever done in my life. I played ball, football, basketball, baseball, the different sports through high school and a little bit in college, and never experienced this kind of pain. Just being in the ring, and they put me through a little bit of everything, and it wasn't like a traditional like today you're just going to learn to do running the ropes or something. They kind of gave me a little bit of everything. Here's how you run the ropes. Here's how you take a basic bump. Here's how you drop an elbow. Here's how you do a leg drop. Like this is all on the first day of my ever touching a ring in my life, not knowing anything other than what I'd seen on TV. And it was the most painful thing that I've ever experienced in my life. And I didn't want to go back. The guy who I didn't, the guy that owned the school called me and he's like, all right, when you coming back? When you starting this? And I said, oh man, I don't think I can afford it. I think his school was like $2,500 or something like that. And I was like, I'm a poor college kid. I don't really have that kind of money. And he goes, well, what can you pay? I was like, $200 a month. And he went, good. And so I kind of backed myself into it, not wanting to go back because it was so painful. Trying to use the financial side of things is the reason I couldn't go back. Then he said okay to what I said, and I was like, all right, well, I can't back out now. And as they say, a lot in life, the rest is history. I started right there, and as far as finding out that this was something I could do, it was a very classic indie company. We had a good ring, we had a good little facility, nothing major, nothing crazy, but it was good. I was consistent, but it was literally like me, this guy named Jason Baker, and my trainer. His name was Solo Faitala, and it was just the three of us, and we just beat the crap out of each other every day. And like me and Jason would do all his drills that Solo would have us go through, and then when it was time to learn a new move, Solo would teach us, and I'd drop him on his head every day. And that's just kind of how things went. But started working on shows for the Southwest Wrestling Federation, which is the school and company I started with. And then, not too long after that, I started traveling. I started working with Rudy Boy Gonzalez. I started working down in Corpus with the Galvans, different families like that and places around Texas. And I think that's when it started to click like, I have something that people want on their shows. I'm having fun going out there in front of these crowds. You know, I was young, so after I got used to the pain, nothing really hurt. And so that's kind of when I started to decide, you know, if I can keep going with this, I will. And then there was a company in Dallas, Texas called PCW that actually ran a weekly show. They did television in Dallas. It was originally gentleman Chris Adams was the guy who kind of started their company and ran their school. And then when, you know, his passing happened, Red Dog and Jazz, Rodney Mack, both kind of took that over, and they kind of took us under our wing. And that's really, really, really when I started going, this is really something I really want to pursue very hard, because they had TV. So we were going down there every week. We were filming pre-tapes and vignettes. We were having live mics in the ring. We were working for hard cameras, TV style. We had entrance videos. We had all the fun and flash that a big promotion had on an independent scale. And I think that's truly when it started to become fun for me. And as like something that, you know, even though I was working in the nightclub still, I was like, you know, wrestling is what I'd really like to be my next avenue. You know, and unfortunately WCW shut down, and then TNA started, you know, and then now there was another option, because I'd had some small conversations with the WWF at the time, but again, I was a taller, skinny kid. I maybe weighed 210 at the time. And so I was not physically thick enough for what obviously at the time, especially Vince wanted in his program. So it was seeing TNA come out and become a viable option in the business of professional wrestling kind of gave me a new avenue.
Wow.
Love it. Great
What an
story.
origin story, Bryan.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And you know what I noticed as well from that, Bryan, which leads us beautifully into our next segment, was how many names that Lance just mentioned. So we had everything from Shawn Michaels to Rudy Gonzalez and down the line, more and more and more. Because right now, Lance, seeing as we're talking all sorts of different names, we're going to throw you into the mix to test that gray matter and give it a little flex, because we're going into our first game show. It's time to play A to Z. This is dedicated to one of our big favorites, the Iron Sheik, who likes to drop a little medicine from A to Z. We are going to give you 60 seconds to name as many professional wrestlers as you can in alphabetical order. So
I've been hitting the head a lot, man. What are you doing to me?
Right, so let me lay out to you how it currently stands.
Okay.
As it currently stands, Bryan and Headbanger Mosh are top of the mountain with 16 points. You get a point for every one that you get right, okay? Tied. Tied.
I got to take a time out here. Now, Mosh, I should be in the lead, Tom. I'm sorry. Now, listen. Okay, look. You let him skip a name. You let him skip a letter, a name.
I did.
And so that would actually put me ahead. So I'm going to take, you know, I don't want to do the job just yet.
I'm just waiting for that doesn't work for me, brother line, and then we can really...
Wait a minute. I'll give them all to you.
Okay.
All right. So they're top of the mountain, bottom of the mountain right now, seeing as we had gimmick infringement due to the stage dive, is Headbanger Thrasher, who managed 2 names in 60 seconds. So anything beyond that, brother, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
So the timer is set. You've got 60 seconds. Start with A, B, blah, 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 blah. Is it easier for you if I lay it up with A, B, or do you just want to roll?
I'll try to roll. If I get clogged up, just like I did there, you throw the letter at me.
Well, this is it. You've got a degree in English. You should be fine with the alphabet. Let's go for it. All right.
Yeah, the alphabet, sure, but the names.
Right. I'm going to count you down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Aleister Black, Bam Bam Bigelow, Chavo Guerrero, Diamond Dallas Page, Ernie the Cat Miller, Fandango, George the Animal Steel, Hector Guerrero.
Awesome.
You're doing great.
The Insane Clown Posse, they wrestled.
Go for it.
Jay Juventud Guerrero, Killer Carl Cox.
Name.
Lance Archer. There we go. Madman, Mad Oh gosh, dog it. Minion, there we go. Minion.
Yeah, Midian, great. 10 seconds.
Natty Neidhart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Orton.
2, 1, boom!
Oh, great, man.
Brother.
Great.
Shall we give him Orton at the end? Shall we give him Orton?
Yeah, I say yeah, man. He was nailing it. Bob Orton is good. Bob Orton Sr.
Yeah, let's go for that.
Randy.
Absolutely nailed it out of the park.
Good
Ladies
job,
and
man.
gentlemen, Lance Archer just stormed through that alphabet like storming through the ring. Personal favorite, Killer Carl Cox. Oh, yeah. That
He's
is.
a Texas-
I was waiting.
he's-
I was
he's a-
hoping he was
He's a
the
Texas
role-
guy.
Yeah, well, when you got stuck, here's another one. When you got stuck on I was like,
Uh-huh.
he's got to throw in Iceman King Parsons. I mean, come on.
Oh, let's see. I have a little heat with Iceman, but that's okay.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay. I was just thinking the letter. Okay.
Well, Ralphie truly appreciated that. Ralphie
Yes,
went
this
all the
is
way
Ralphie.
through. One absolute sweetheart, mate. You did it insanely well. We'll add everything up. Now, one thing that I am going to add in, Brian, that I've not told you about yet, because it was something that I was formulating. I'm going to give double points if you got double the letters. So if you went like Chris Candido and you got a double whammy, you get double points. And there were a few in there, Lance. So excellent.
Okay.
And you said Bam Bam Bigelow. So there's.
Bam Bam. Do we give him 3 for Bam Bam? Bigelow?
Well,
There you go.
I'm just saying.
Nailed it. Well, we kick things off with an absolute smile on my face. And as we carry on through your epic career, you've traveled through some of the biggest companies in the entire wrestling world, from TNA to WWE, New Japan to AEW, and you've reinvented yourselves multiple times along the way. But my question to you is, what defines the Murderhawk Monster version of Lance Archer compared to earlier versions of yourself?
For me, it was a change in mindset. Like I said, the Murderhawk Monster was born in 2019. I've been with New Japan Pro Wrestling since 2011. I've predominantly been a tag team with Harry Smith, or Davey Boy Smith Jr., the son of the British Bulldog. Killer Elite Squad. We killed it. We did a lot of great things in Japan. 3-time IWGP Tag Team Champions, 2-time NOAH GHC Champions, 2-time NWA Champions. So we did a lot as a tag team. And in 2019, he kind of, with the company, went in a different direction. The company was still keeping me around. Initially, I wasn't even supposed to be in the G1 Climax that year. It was the first time the G1 Climax was ever going to be outside of Japan, and they were doing it in Dallas, Texas. I was going to be initially on the show, but they weren't going to have me in the G1. So I got a phone call and it was like, hey, you're actually going to be in the G1 this year. And your first match in the G1 is going to be against Will Ospreay. And Will and I had a banger of a match at the New Japan Cup in March of 2019. And that was kind of the first time I think they realized, yes, Ralphie, I know. They realized that I could still go even as a singles wrestler, like I said, because I've kind of been labeled as a tag team guy. And as Brian can tell you in this business, sometimes that's how you are just seen. If you're seen as a tag team guy, people seeing you as a singles wrestler is sometimes hard for them to do. Or if you're just a monster singles wrestler, successful wise, it's hard for them to see you in a tag team, like maybe a hodgepodge tag team once in a while. But anyway, so 2019 comes around, G1 Climax comes around. I'm in the Climax, wrestling in Dallas, Texas, in front of my friends and family that have been watching me wrestle, for 20 plus years at that point. And it was an opportunity for me because I've been calling myself the American Psycho, and I just had the long hair. I was like, this is a chance for me to really try to make a statement. The show was going to be live on Access TV plus New Japan World, back in Japan. So this was going to be one of the biggest audience I'd had both on this side of the world and in Japan in a long, long time. And so that's where I kind of donned the change in the hair. And the original cut was more of just a traditional poofed up mohawk.
Yeah.
But then later discovered, through the tour that it was very hard for me to do that because I'm not a hairstylist. And then the braids started coming out. I met a hairstylist in Japan, and she was able to do the kind of the cornrow braids. And this was kind of the dawning of the Murderhawk Monster. I don't even think I'd coined the name yet, but the image was there, the attitude was there. And then Will and I went out and had one of the best matches I've had in my career. And Will's like one of those guys. I say Will Ospreay, AJ Styles, guys like that. If you have a bad match with those guys, that means you're extremely horrible. And, so to even have just a basic good match with those guys is almost inevitable. But we went out and had a, almost 20-minute banger of a match, first G1 match to ever be done outside of Japan on US soil or anywhere else in the world. So we were the introduction to the G1 Climax tournament in the United States of America. And I think we did, beyond justice. I think we topped what we did in March at the New Japan Cup, and that was kind of the birth of the Murderhawk Monster. And then later, like I said, I adopted the name Murderhawk Monster.
And it suits you so well. Now, I'm going to pose this to both of you because you've tailored it throughout your wonderful careers on both sides of the fence. You've balanced being dominant forces as heels, and you've been fan favorite baby faces. But personally, and I'm going to start with you, Lance, and then we're going to bat it up to Bryan. Do you prefer to be on the side of being feared as a heel or being cheered as a babyface? What is your preference?
I think and it's really hard. While I was with WWE, I remember I had a conversation with Batista, and he was just exclaiming how difficult it was to be a heel. And this was like, 2010 era, and this was at a time, I think, when society and life was really being focused in. Twitter was a new thing, but it was a very focused thing. So look, a little bit of everything you did was seen and micro analyzed to a degree where it actually made it harder, I think, to be a heel. So if and when you can be a heel and be a good heel and have people really booing, hating you, but not trying to cancel you at the same time, even though people just try to do that regardless of the situation. Especially in Japan, it was a lot of fun because their culture was much more accepting to the idea of a big, bad monster heel. I tell the story that they embrace a I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of folklore, and it's called Namahage. And Namahage is kind of like a demon, but the whole idea is that this demon comes and he scares little children. And when he scares little children, they get scared and they think they're going to die, but then they realize they're not going to die, even though everybody dies. Then they become stronger adults. And I started being called by some of the Japanese fans Namahage because I would go and find children in the audience and would scare the ever-living crap out of them. And they would be crying and just in complete fear. And then the parents would have the biggest smile of glee and happiness on their face because they understood kind of through their culture what that meant. Whereas in the States, a lot of times, like I've had people, some of these kids are bad kids and they'll be 3 years old flipping you off. And then parents who, have come to a pro wrestling show and still want to fight you because you've scared their child, not knowing that somebody's performing and it's just part of the show and part of the act and whatnot that's happening right now. So it's a lot of fun being a really good heel.
That's awesome. I could just imagine you terrifying the kids.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's insane. And I also loved the way that we got everybody dies in there as well. Bryan, take it over, brother. What are we saying? Check out that smile. It's got to be babyface, right?
Well, I'm just saying Lance is going to be the heel, so I'll go ahead and be the babyface. he's got to have somebody to work with. Might as well be me. So yeah. No, it's just naturally me. I think I can try the persona of being a heel, and I've tried it a few times, but there's just certain parts of my personality that come out that it just sort of, I don't know, I'm end up in the face sooner or later. And so, yeah, I just would start with that and end with that. It's easier. So,
and you can throw those phone
sell more
like
merch.
no other.
And you get a merch check, right? You get a percentage.
You sell more merch.
There you go. Yeah. Awesome. So Lance, you mentioned earlier all of your championships, which is absolutely amazing. And you also teamed with one of our former guests, actually two of our former guests, and Davey Boy Smith, which is Harry Smith, of course, Jr. Well, man, he was a fantastic guest. I think we recorded at 4 a.m., right? Because he was in Tokyo. So
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was a real fun interview. We learned all about Turkish tea and honey. We learned a lot, man. It really was.
Did he bring up Nobu?
Nobu.
Is that with the rocks and stones or
no? No. Never mind. Good.
Oh,
he didn't do
okay.
That. That's amazing.
All right.
I'm going to text him now. Find out what.
Yeah, text him.
Please do. You'll never hear the end of it. Go.
Oh,
Okay,
I
I'm going to
love
do it.
it.
Let's see if he replies before the end of the show. Carry on, Brian. Sorry.
So yeah, and of course, it's been a few months now. We had Brian with us, and Brian Cage, of course, one of your tag team
Yeah.
partners. He's coming back from a couple of knee injuries, and we haven't talked since the interview, but from just seeing the photos, everything, he's looking great. Do you
He
think
always
you
does.
guys? Yeah, he does. I don't ever remember seeing him look bad. Honestly, yeah, I agree with
Ridiculous.
you. Do you think you guys will team up, or do you think you will just separate, or do you have any idea?
I have zero idea on that. We're both a part of the Don Callis family.
Right.
The Murder Machines team was a pretty good team, pretty strong team, but it was very new and very early. And
Yeah.
then unfortunately, he had the accident. He tore a quad, and then he ended
Yeah.
up having a knee surgery. So while he was recovering from both of those, the one knee surgery just wasn't healing properly, so he had to get it done again. So ultimately, he had three surgeries: a quad and two knee surgeries in the
Yeah.
same knee. So, I mean, he's ready to go. He's 100%, and he's cleared to wrestle, and I'm sure he'll be back sooner than later. As far
Yeah.
as us as a team, that's kind of beyond our uh, choice. That's not, really on us. That's on the company and what they want to do. And I don't know what they're going to want to do.
Right. Okay. Fair enough, man. Yeah. I said I love seeing you guys together. I thought you were great. And again, unfortunately, the injury part of it happens.
I will throw something out about Brian and I
Sure.
real quick that has nothing
Sure.
to do with pro wrestling specifically, but
All
it
right.
does in a sense. So have you guys seen the trailers for the new movie Disclosure Day?
We were going to be
That,
coming to it, brother. We were
that's
going to
one
be
of our
coming
Oh,
to
okay,
it.
okay, okay. Okay,
No, it's all right.
sorry.
Lay it up now. Lay it up now. It's always a good segue.
Well, Brian Cage and I are both in that movie. We have a small cameo. Hopefully, it hasn't been cut or dwindled down
Yeah.
to almost nothing. We'll see. We had an amazing experience, filming it with Steven Spielberg himself. So, even though we're a team, that day we were beating up on each other for a movie.
That's
Wow.
wicked. In front of
And,
Spielberg, no, no less.
yeah, I mean, come on, it doesn't get any bigger than that. That is
So can I
absolutely
can I
phenomenal.
tell a little bit of story on that?
Yes,
Yes,
of
please
course.
do.
Go
Yeah.
for it.
Okay. The cool thing about that experience, like I said, it's a big time movie. It's a Steven Spielberg movie. Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg was actually there. A lot of times some of the off scenes, the second scenes, they'll be kind of handled by the second director and things like that. But no, Steven Spielberg himself was there. I found out originally the whole scene was supposed to be like a crash derby type scene, but that would have been too big and too expensive and too hard to do retakes and whatnot. So they turned it into a pro wrestling event where they rented out a theater in Long Island, New York, and they filled it out with extras and cast members. And they had Cage and I in there, and we're just kind of the background of things and whatnot. And they've got their main actors. I think the if you've seen the trailer, the main kid, younger man that's walking around with a backpack, talking about he can understand what they're saying, he was there in the scene. This is kind of a scene where he's receiving that backpack and whatnot. But ultimately, we're in the background and we're just doing pro wrestling stuff. And the cool part about it was, they're focused on the main actors, but we're kind of in the scene and the camera's swooping in between us and then filming us while filming them. And the chaos of the situation is happening while this backdrop is happening and so on and so forth. But the cool part about it was I remember specifically, like we were just kind of going on the riff. We had some stuff planned, but for the most part, it was just fight, just do your thing. Crowd's going to kind of react to you while we're filming our actual scene. And Brian and I did a 10 punch, and we're completely off camera at this point. But it went so well that the audience was like, 1, 2, 3, counting so loud and so much. And they were getting into what Brian and I were doing because they could see us because we're the action, to the point where they ended the scene, they yelled cut, and they go, "That was freaking amazing. We need a lot less," because the people got so into the pro wrestling moment that it kind of overtook the scene and what they were trying to film. So we did do it again, but it was done a little slow or a little less, not as much. We didn't do a full 10 count. And it was more so they could focus on the actors. And then once they were actually done with the actors themselves, they were done filming for the day. Now Steven was actually directly involved with Brian and I, to the point where like he came and set up next to the ring, and me and one of the stunt coordinators were doing some POV stuff with just like some GoPro cameras, and like he's yelling at me, like not yelling, but telling me, directing me, He's like, hey, Lance, do it this way, roll this way, make this face here, do this. Oh, that's great. Oh, I love this. He's off camera. Steven Spielberg is actually directing me in this moment, which made it beyond cool. There's a chance that something that we did would be the actual opening of the entire movie, which will be really cool if that actually comes to be. Because again, it's Hollywood. It could be completely whittled down to almost nothing. I don't know. We'll find out. But the way that Steven was handling things, it sounded like he was having a lot of fun directing pro wrestling. And we got done with everything for the day. We'd filmed all the stuff. We'd filmed everything that he wanted to see. We got done early. Instead of doing a full day, we did basically a half day. So that was awesome. But he gets done and he was nothing but cordial. Like he talked to Brian and I directly, and we talked pro wrestling. And we were like, you should come check out a show. And he's like, absolutely, whether he ever does or not. He's like, I'll come to a show in LA with you guys. But then he goes to thank the audience, the people, that had been brought in as extras that had been so great and so responsive and a part of the action in the moment. And they gave him like a pro wrestling Steven chant. They're like, Steven, Steven. And he had the biggest, craziest grin on his face. So I think he actually had a lot of fun directing like pro wrestling for the moment and for the day.
What a story.
That is,
it was really cool.
Where else are you going to get that inside scoop? I mean, that is awesome.
Yeah. I'll probably get an NDA here soon for saying some of the stuff I said.
And basically, if you think about it, you guys were doing so much that Spielberg basically told you to grab a hold.
Yeah.
He told you to grab a hold and just slow down a little bit.
He was having so much fun. And like I said, once he got done with his actors and was like directly directing me, like as far as, what I've been allowed to do in the business of professional wrestling and even some movie stuff, like that was the coolest considering who Steven Spielberg is and the amazing plethora of blockbuster movies that he's directed.
There is no greater statement to say that in that situation, as we know, as everybody knows that's listening to this show, professional wrestling is over like Rover. We love it, love it. Now, from an epic scoop, which is what we like to hear on the Meltdown, we're going to find out some more little epic terms as we're coming to one of the most epic parts of our show. Brian, I think it's time to rub those hands together for our highest rated segment each and every week, because it's time for game show number 2. It's time for Winner Stays On with Lance Archer. So you may have played this game before, brother. I'm going to give you 2 names. They're going to be on either side of my hands. You are going to put one over. You are going to bury one, and we're going to bring one in. It will flow through until we get the last, and we're going to find out who gets the ultimate pop at the end, who walks away with the big W. And you can take it any way that you want to take it. You can have personal preference, historical significance, whatever you want to do. And as we build these shows, we look at each individual of our wonderful guests on a unique basis. And for you, seeing as you have got one of the most epic designs in all of pro wrestling history, we're going to give you Winner Stays On Most Iconic Tattoos. So, it's time to rub those out. Brian, are you ready for this?
Oh, yeah. I looked at this list already.
Now, I was really, really tempted to put in Adam Bomb's nuclear bomb. And I pulled back, brother. I pulled back. So apologies.
It's gone.
No. All right. Here we go. Let's flex it. Lance, are we ready?
I can't really flex this hand, but go.
Yeah.
Flex that one. There we go. First 2 names. Darby Allin or Brock Lesnar?
Brock Lesnar.
Brock goes over and Darby takes the coffin drop. Brock or The Rock?
Brock.
Brock, that was with a B, right?
We're talking tattoos, correct?
Yes.
Tattoos, yeah.
Okay, I guess The Rock.
The Rock's iconic tattoo takes it. The people's elbow is just smashed through the F5. This is an interesting one. The Rock or Cody Rhodes?
Oh my God. Are we talking iconic or just insanity?
It's down to you, brother. However you want to tailor it.
I'm gonna go with Cody, and I'm gonna say Cody because Cody put it on his neck, which was insane, a choice that very few people could ever do, and obviously Cody has reached the heights that he's reached. So being that brave to actually tattoo his own symbol on his neck, that's iconic.
He put those balls on the table for that one.
He
Cody Rhodes
did.
or CM Punk?
Yeah, if we're just talking iconic, Cody still get this one.
Keeping it with Cody. Cody or Brody King?
Cody.
Cody or Jeff Hardy?
But Jeff has so many like crazy tattoos. If we're just sticking with iconic, like that just sticks out, still got to be Cody.
All right, Cody or Goldberg?
Ooh, oh man.
This gets really tough now.
Yeah, that gets really tough. I mean, the Goldberg tattoo was copied endlessly, I think, once he got over and popular. I mean, even I think Braun Breaker had it at one time, if he still doesn't have it already.
I've been looking for it now.
Yeah.
All right, so where are we going? We're going to keep with Cody or are we going with Goldberg?
Goldberg
or Batista?
Goldberg, just because the one shoulder tattoo is, like I said, just copied Goldberg.
Well, speaking of shoulder tattoos, Goldberg or Lita?
I didn't even know she had one, so I wasn't looking at her tattoo. Sorry. Goldberg.
Amy, this is coming to you. Goldberg or Bam Bam Bigelow?
Ooh, then we go to the Scully. The Scully, like I said, I think Goldberg's is more iconic, but because again, talking about placement and the pain and what he had to go through, and ultimately who Bam Bam was, I'm gonna go with Bam Bam.
Bam Bam Bigelow or The Undertaker?
I think you have to, tattoo wise, you have to stick with Bam Bam because it's so iconic of who he was.
Yeah, that is testament to the man. That is full head tattoo. Bam Bam Bigelow or Randy Orton?
I still think you have to stick with Bam Bam.
Okay, a few left. Bam Bam or Aleister Black?
Bam Bam.
Bam Bam or Roman Reigns?
Bam Bam.
Bam Bam or Lance Archer?
I think Bam Bam has topped me as far as iconic in the business, so I'm gonna give it to Bam Bam.
Oh, wow. Excellent job, brother. Excellent job. We'd have put you over. We'd have put you over. We'd have given you the W. That's sensational. Well done. The Beast from the East takes the victory. Big diving headbutt from the top, and that head is tattooed.
Yeah.
You know, Bobby Heenan said that his head looked like a front end of a 57 Chevy. That was because of the flame job. Bobby Heenan's words.
I will go, and I'll have to put over my friend Tokes Fale over in New Japan because he's got a nice full like Tongan Scully on his head now. So he went full on like that. Yeah.
We'll put an honorable mention in the reel.
There you go.
I like that. I like that. Represent. Bam Bam gets the big win. Well done, well done. Thank you so much for that, brother. Well, let's raise a glass. And seeing as we are raising a glass, I am in the presence of two legendary tag team competitors. Lance mentioned a little bit earlier on all his incredible accolades in Japan. We know that Bryan's a three-time tag team champion of the world. But as we are raising glasses, this week we unfortunately lost one of the tag team world's biggest names, one of the most brightest spectrums that was in the 1980s. And we want to send out all our love and support upstairs to the lover boy himself, Dennis Condrey, one half of the Midnight Express. We'll raise our glasses to you, brother. Chin chin, and hope you are in a better place up there. Yeah. Well, let's progress, Bryan. Let's carry on. So as we kick off our next section, I'm gonna delve deep into AEW as AEW has just launched their brand new video on demand service around the world. Iconically in where I am, but ironically not yet in the US. It's coming soon. It's myaew.com, where fans can now go back through all the All Elite archives and revisit some of Lance's most brutal encounters. So let's talk about some of those. Your match against Cody Rhodes, yes, with the big neck tattoo, in the TNT Championship Finals was absolutely brutal. It was incredible. What stands out for you when you look back at that epic collision?
Yeah, well, like you said, it was for the TNT Championship, the very inaugural TNT Championship, and it was at a time, the unfortunate reality of the world at the time, middle of COVID. And, we were lucky enough at AEW, they brought in as many of the young men and women who were aspiring to get jobs and be a part of AEW, WWE, the big times of the business, And so we had people around the ring that were actually cheering and booing and being a part of the show. And, sometimes organically just enjoying the wrestling. And, that was the fun part because, we knew they were there to do a job and they would boo and cheer who they were supposed to boo and cheer. But at the same time, when you could actually go out there and produce an entertaining match that actually had them uh, yelling and screaming and having a good time watching a pro wrestling match, that's when you knew you were really doing something fun and good. And so we were lucky enough at AEW in Jacksonville during all that craziness to have that going on. And I think one of the memories I have of that moment was there was a storm in Jacksonville happening, and the Daly's place was actually considered an outdoor venue. So it wasn't like you were inside a building, even though it was covered, and we weren't outside. But because it was open aired facility, it was actually considered an outdoor venue. And therefore, if lightning struck, they could technically shut everything down.
Wow.
Authorities could, because again, it's considered dangerous. And I remember, we were battling the idea that, possibly lightning would strike and that, authorities would shut everything down to be protective of everybody, understandably so. But I remember a little kayfabe behind the scenes. I remember I went to Cody and I was like, "What happens if this happens?" And he goes, "We're just going to keep going." And so, it was one of those situations where I didn't know what was going to happen. I'd been brought into the company. I'd been at New Japan for 9 years at that point, and had this tournament that built up because like everything happened as far as COVID was concerned, right as I came in. Like, excuse me, Jake had made his statement with Cody in front of a live audience. Jake and I made our first presence in front of a live audience. And like that night that Jake and I kind of did our physical debut for the company was the night that basically the US and the world shut down. And then we did everything, like we filmed close to 30 different matches in Atlanta at the Nightmare Factory in front of just the AEW other wrestlers in this tiny building. I had my first live match against Marco Stunt in front of just them and nobody else. And then we filmed more stuff that led for the tournament that ultimately led to Cody and I in Jacksonville at Daly's Place. And I think that's kind of the most memorable part because ultimately Daly's Place for us was kind of an escape from what was happening in the world because we all came together. We all got our testing done to try to be as safe as we possibly could at the time and whatever was going on, however you feel about that. But we did everything we could with the knowledge we had to be as safe and careful as we could. But once we were past all those protocols, we were kind of in our bubble, with us at the hotel and us at the venues and things like that. And so that was kind of our escape from all the madness that was happening in the world because, we get done with the shows and then we'd all go back to the hotel and we all kind of were together eating and drinking and having a good time and getting to know each other. And it became really the family unit at the time because of all the craziness that was happening in the world and because we felt safe in our bubble, in the situation that was going on. So I think that's probably some of the biggest memories alongside of having that inaugural TNT championship match against Cody.
That's amazing. I remember that time so vividly, and it really did. The fact that you were together as a unit really endeared me to AEW because it was just it had only launched maybe 6-8 months before 2019.
October of 2019. Yep.
Yeah, so it launched in October. Come March, everything shuts down. And to know that you guys were just together really did bring a smile to my face in a time where the world was completely uncertain. And from a basis of pro wrestling, this may give me some heat up in Stanford. But when they launched the Thunderdome and had people dialing in via Zoom, I thought that was a complete contrast in the negative from what you guys were offering with the live audience of enhancement talent and other performers.
Right.
One thing, as I drop it in here, it still pisses me off. The fact that WWE in the Thunderdome piped in "This is awesome" chants when there was nobody in the building. I was like, I feel so bad for the performers that are giving it their all in this environment. And
everybody
that was bad, man.
Yeah, everybody was just trying to do their best with what they had in the moment, and that was what they chose to do. And we were choosing to use the extras, the people who were trying to the enhancement talent, whatever you want to call them. But because we were all there, we used that and it gave it more of a real and live feel. We kind of benefited from that situation because of that. But again, everybody from them to us to anybody that was trying to run shows, especially once the world kind of tried to start opening in different places, were just doing the best they could with what they could and the knowledge they had, so.
Well, I applaud you because I think you did an absolutely incredible job throughout the entire pandemic. So to AEW, to Tony Khan, to all our wonderful crew and roster, well done. And thank you so much for keeping us entertained while keeping yourselves safe. Well done to you for that. Brian, kick us off with the next one because we've been going through the entire smorgasbord, haven't we?
All right. So your Texas death match with Jon Moxley for the IWGP US Championship is still talked about today. Tell us how physically demanding that match was for you, and then maybe what he thought about it.
Yeah, for me, he and I had a Texas death match in the Tokyo Dome for that same title. And that was my first time ever doing kind of a death match in my life, and all the years of my wrestling career, I'd never done a death match. If you like hardcore matches and street fights and cage matches and things like that. But this was the first time, or the one in Japan was the first time doing a Texas death match. So fast forward to 2021 when I'm facing John for the U.S. title in Dallas, Texas, in a Texas death match. And, we hadn't overdone the whole Texas death match thing yet. This was one of the very first ones we'd done in AEW. And so it was, for me, it was extremely physically demanding. But the cool part was because it was in Dallas, my family, my friends, people, like I said, that had been watching me from when I started the PCW that I'd mentioned earlier, which was a company in the Dallas, Texas area. All these people had come to this sold out show in Dallas, Texas to watch me in the main event against Jon Moxley for the IWGP US title, and then ultimately winning it, which not a lot of people have actually beaten John, in the history of AEW, and especially at that time in AEW. So to be one of the very few at the time to actually topple the Jon Moxley, was a really cool experience. So as hard as it was, as painful as it was, from getting forked in the head to, getting hit with kendo sticks and chairs and everything else that was there, you kind of lose yourself in that moment. You know how that is, Brian. You get in those moments that should be the most painful things in the world. And for the most part, you don't even think about it till after the match is done, because everything that's happening in that moment with the adrenaline and everybody that's yelling and screaming and cheering and booing and everything that's going on with it, you just kind of zoom out. You kind of get that tunnel vision as to what's happening, and you just go through it. And it was a really, really, really cool, memorable experience for me. And then I felt the pain later because I think I broke my hand. I don't know if you can see, I got a flat knuckle there because I punched the chair. But in the moment, I don't remember feeling it. But afterwards, I was like, oh, something's wrong.
Excellent. That's the way it is. Like you said, when you're in the moment, man, whether it's kendo sticks, tables, chairs, whatever it may be, for some strange reason, you're so pumped up and amped up that you do not feel it at that moment for the most part.
No.
So yeah, man, it's good stuff. Love it.
Now I'm going to ask you this, and I've not put this on the show run, Brian, but I'm going to pose it to both of you, because the way that it's structured right now, we've just come off AEW Revolution 2026, one absolutely incredible card and a sensational show that was headlined by Hangman Adam Page, yes, your old rival, and our very own champion, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, who put on an absolute banger of a Texas death match. But I want to know if either of you have your limits as to how far you would go with the plunder, because we saw a lot in that match. So we had everything from, we had syringes going through cheeks, we had broken glass on the floor, we had, you could just reel it through. There were so many incredible moments that will be talked about for years. But would there ever be a situation where, as your producers or the team would be going through it and we'd like to do this spot, that spot, would there be anything where you just go, nope, I am not going to be taking skewers to the head?
For me, you never say never in this business, because a lot of times we've said never in the past, and then we ultimately go, all right, let's do it. The one thing that, even if I was in another Texas death match in my future and, I decided to go balls to the wall, as they say, and do anything and everything to try to make it as epic as it could possibly be in that moment, and I absolutely would. Light tubes are the only thing that I've seen way too many extreme accidents, like people almost dying and going to hospitals and, losing lots and lots of blood because those light tubes, especially once they break, if they sliver, and more of a dagger angle, upwards, they just become beyond razor sharp, and they'll cut through anything and everything, tendons, veins, everything. And there is no forgiveness from those. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do that is kind of that controlled chaos, the skewers in the head, the forks in the head, the bumps on the nail tables, the glass that you bump in sometimes, but the way it's already broken, it doesn't have the capacity to do the same thing. And like I said, I've seen some extreme light tube accidents where they literally sent people to the hospital and they almost didn't make it. And that's the one, like if somebody's like, oh, we're going to do this with these light tubes, I'd probably go, what else can we choose here? Because that's something I would try to avoid.
That's a good one. I think David Arquette would certainly agree with you. And for those of you that don't know, stick that into your Google machine. Bryan, what would your limit be?
I don't really have a good answer. I guess I would probably say what Lance did and I didn't think about it until he was explaining it, but the little pieces that can break off and go into your eyes. I think that would be a vision issue there. I just, everything else you can take a your own bump or a flat bump on most things at least, but with that, man, you have no control of where the glass is going to go.
No.
So I would probably I would agree with that.
You brought up glass. You brought up glass in the eye, and I'll tell a quick story on that. So he's been my tag partner a few times in Japan. Alex Zane, Monster Sauce is the team. He had some hardcore match somewhere where a piece of glass went into his eye, and when he got done with the match, somebody was like looking at him, going, "Dude, your eye is cut." And he goes, "Oh, it is." And the dark part, the black part of his eye, was bleeding into the rest of his eye because it had cut it, and it was opening completely up, like where your eye dilates. It had cut the iris or whatever, and like so the black part was just bleeding into the rest of his eye. Like he had to go to the hospital and have that taken out and fixed. He almost lost his vision in one of his eyes. Like that's some pretty intense stuff.
Wow.
Wow. What a scary moment.
It's good to pass on the glass. Yeah.
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 And that's going to make a great reel. So let's build that in. And I'll see if I can find the footage. Excellent job. Excellent job. Now, we mentioned him just minutes ago. Let's talk about the epic clashes that you've had with the one and only Hangman Adam Page and what makes him such a compelling opponent for you.
Hangman's one of those guys that just there is no quit in him whatsoever. And I think that's what has endeared him to the AEW and pro wrestling fans of the world is like he has an ability and intensity that, is very unmatched by a few in this business. He was his first championship run. He and I had a match, and ultimately, it was kind of a cool experience because I had just come back from a neck injury. Like about 4.5 months prior, short shot at a moonsault, landed on my forehead, ultimately didn't break my neck, but gave myself like an extreme whiplash situation where it took that time to heal it. We have an amazing training staff that helped me get back to that point. So this was my return to AEW, was attacking and challenging Hangman Adam Page to ultimately a Texas death match. And we were supposed to have it pretty quick. And then ultimately, luckily, with how the business works and things that went on, we were able to get a little bit of time to help build it up. And ultimately, like I said, it became a Texas death match. And then we, so to this day, Bryan brought up the Texas death match that I had with John and what it meant and what it was for my time in AEW in my career. Well, the Hangman one is probably one of the ones that a lot of fans, even though I was on the losing end of it, bring up to me all the time. And, it's just, I think the components that involved in it, the way Hangman and I had that match, the things that we did, the flow of the match, the fight of the match, like I said, his intensity and never give up attitude. We took away the top rope, so we took away his, shotgun clothesline. But ultimately, he still did it off the back of the referee to me on the ring apron through tables on the floor. It was a cool, epic moment. Like I said, even though it was in loss for me, for my career, and what is brought up by a lot of fans is that match, specifically with Hangman.
Yeah, it was epic. And once again, go out of your way to check it out. If you have yet to subscribe, head over to myaew.com and check out everything that they've got on offer, because it's not just All Elite. We have got the full Ring of Honor service on there as well with their Honor TV, Honor Club TV. It's all there. So check it out. myaew.com. Bryan, let's talk about entrances.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Circle back to also what Lance said is the win, the loss. A lot of times people just forget about that because the match and the storytelling was so great that,
Mhm.
think back to, some of Randy Savage's great matches of all time where he lost. You wouldn't even remember that because you remember what a great job Randy did.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that I absolutely agree with that 100%. The question here, Lance, is for some of your biggest entrances of all time. Is there any city or any place in your mind? Like for me, a lot of mine is in Europe,
Mhm.
parts of Asia, but is there any place that sticks out for you, like the biggest pop you've ever had in your own mind that you go, wow, this, I remember this.
Right. I mean, some of the matches that we just talked about, as far as like working with John and in Dallas, Texas, I think that was probably one of
Dallas.
my more memorable moments. But a lot of my stuff is Japan, just because I had so
Yeah.
much time and success in Japan. And I got to ride a Harley Davidson into the Tokyo Dome
Wow.
in my first ever Wrestle Kingdom match, and that was a really cool experience. Got to do that twice over there. The fun story about that is, Japan is very, very strict. They have
Yeah.
rules and they follow the rules and they don't deviate from those rules. And I'd suggested the motorcycle, and they agreed to it. Like I didn't think they would, but they agreed to it. They actually got a Harley Davidson sponsorship for the show out
Wow.
of that situation. So that was really cool. But
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
made it crazy was probably maybe 2 weeks prior to the Tokyo Dome and that show, January 4th, because it's always on January 4th. I get an email and it was like, oh, please send us your motorcycle license, a picture of your motorcycle license. And I said, well, I don't have a motorcycle's license. I have a driver's license. And they're like, but don't you have a motorcycle? And I was like, yeah, I got a motorcycle. And they're like, well, don't you have a motorcycle license? And I went, no, I don't got a motorcycle license. And they're like, well, how do you ride a motorcycle? And I was like, I just get on it and go. And they're like, but you're not supposed to. It's illegal. And I went, yeah, only if you get caught. Um, and so they just couldn't compute the idea of me not having a license. And so they actually said it was in jeopardy as to whether I was going to get to ride a motorcycle inside the Tokyo Dome. And then my response to that was, I'm not going to be on the streets of Tokyo. I'm going to be inside the Tokyo Dome where there are no traffic laws. I was like, so I could understand it if we were going to film stuff outside and I was going to be riding, on the streets of Tokyo, but we're not. I'm going to be inside the Tokyo Dome. And then, so like to the day when I arrived in Japan, I didn't know if I was going to get to do the motorcycle because they're so strict on that they may not have allowed me. But sure enough, when I arrived, I had not audition, a practice schedule, and it was riding the motorcycle. And ultimately, they filmed what would be kind of the entrance, the smoke and mirrors of the entrance and whatnot. And I did get to ride into the Tokyo Dome. So ultimately, nothing bad happened. They didn't take it away from me, but they were pretty close to going, you don't have a license, we can't do it.
Oh, and that would have
Very
stolen that
cool though. I
moment
mean,
away
what,
from you.
yeah,
That
what
Yeah,
a
that would have
memory
stung.
though. Wow.
But and then it's talking about other entrances. For me in Japan, one of the cooler things that I got to do, and I just kind of spawned naturally, was I started like spitting water in the air. And then I started bringing a couple bottles with me and I'd spit more water in the air and kind of towards the fans' direction. And then I started bringing 2 or 3 bottles of water with me and I would just start slinging the water out at the fans to the point where like I would have probably 7 or 8 bottles of water tucked in my jeans and my pants and
Yeah.
in my hands and my jacket. And I would just go around the entire arena to the point where people were holding up their children, had signs that was like holy water is what they would call it, and like they wanted me to spray them because in Japanese culture, if you know anything, like the Stan Hansens who used to come through the crowd with their
Yeah.
chains and go after the fans and things like that, they embraced that and they loved that, and it was a part of my entrance for a while, and I got to do it. Probably, sorry guys. And I got to do that like in the Tokyo Dome, and I got to do that a lot. And then finally, like one day, they they messaged me and they're like, you can't do that anymore. I guess somebody had complained, or some woman said that I ruined her purse, and I was like, what? That's BS. And so it got taken away, and then I just started hitting all the young lions, and that became my entrance. Where because New Japan always has 4, 5, 6 young lions around the ring, so I just made it a point to make sure I attacked every single one of them on my way to the ring, and that kind of became my new entrance. So I had several different entrances in Japan, and those were extremely memorable in my time.
Awesome.
honestly, the stuff that you do in Japan, the stuff that you do in AEW in terms of your entrances, always made me smile because it was so unique. It was so different. Just carrying extras, enhancement, throwing them into the crowd. Honestly,
Yeah.
it always used to make me pop. It was amazing.
Me too.
Yeah, good. It's always good when we know that it's up with the boys as well, especially the main one. Now, no interview with Lance would be complete if we didn't touch on two iconic names, those being Jake
Uh-oh.
Roberts and
Okay.
Don Callis. So,
Okay.
pairing you with Jake
Okay.
added such a psychological edge to your character. But
Yep.
ultimately, what did you think about working with a legend like Jake the Snake?
For me coming into AEW, it was originally mentioned that they wanted to put me with a manager. There were a few names that were kind of thrown around, like Jake was thrown out there, Vicky Guerrero was thrown out there, and I can't remember if there was a third or not. But ultimately, I was like, Jake and I just physically kind of have the same image. He's, even though his heel character and his heel personality was more psychological and things like that, and mine was more chaotic. I thought it felt like a good fit. And what I say, because people are like, what did Jake teach you? What did Jake help you with the most? And at that point in my career, coming from Japan, I'd really figured out who the Murderhawk Monster was and needed to be inside the ring. And it was a different era of wrestling than what Jake came up in. And it's not that he couldn't help me, and he absolutely did help me at times. But what Jake helped me do the most, especially transitioning from Japan to the US, was people knew Jake the Snake Roberts. A select group of fans knew Lance Archer, the American Psycho, or the Murderhawk Monster because they were watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. But a lot of Western fans, US fans, didn't really know. So that was a good transition to go, because Jake was like, I'm bringing in somebody, and then I appear with Jake, and then we move forward, as Jake as my manager. And so it kind of gave me a great introduction back into Western wrestling, into US wrestling. And then what he truly helped me with was finding a voice for the Murderhawk Monster, because in Japan it's just about the chaos, it's about the yelling, the screaming. The post-match promos are just everybody's gonna die, everybody dies, and they don't ever want you to speak in Japanese because they feel like if you're just yelling and screaming in English, it's more threatening to the Japanese fan base because they just can't fully understand it. So that had been the extent of how I spoke. And so coming in and, early on, especially whether it was cutting promos, Jake did a lot of the talking when I had the step build up with Cody. But beyond that, after that, we did a lot of the AEW Dark. And what I requested was a chance to speak more rather than just have enhancement matches, because I didn't need that. I know how to do that. I can go do that and then give you an entertaining, fun, carry the guy to the ring, whatever the case may be. But I needed to learn to speak better. And so that's where Jake helped me the most. Was we went out there and we would put together promos, and I would go on AEW Dark and I would cut these promos and help me find a voice for the Murderhawk Monster, which is something that kind of hadn't happened before. So that's probably the biggest advantage for me of having Jake, because his ability to speak on the microphone is almost second to none in the business in the history of professional wrestling. As far as Don is concerned, Don is so calculating, and we have such a large group, and it's fun being his bodyguard because he'll hide behind me every time that somebody even gets close to him, and then when he gets a chance, he punches them and he goes back behind me. We have so many big bad monsters in our group between myself, you mentioned Brian Cage, Mark Davis, the skyrocketing effect that Takeshita and Kyle Davis have had. It's unmatched, kind of what he's done in the collection of wrestlers he's got now with Andrade. And then you got Trent Beretta, Rocky Romero, obviously myself, Jake Doyle. Unfortunately, he's coming back from his. We got Josh Alexander. There's such a collection of amazing wrestlers that are in different formats for the business, and that's kind of what Don has done. Is he's taken that mind, that never-ending conniving mind, and he's collected all these guys that can be different things at different aspects in different ways in the business of professional wrestling, and he's kind of put us on different pedestals for different reasons, and it helps elevate every single one of us, and it elevates the Don Callis family.
I like it. And what a stable of guys, if you think about it. I mean, you got different weight divisions, you got different sizes,
Yep.
you got super heavyweights, you got everything, like you said,
Yep.
a pedestal for each guy. I like that.
Yep.
And what a heat seeker he is, man. He
Yeah.
gets a ton of heat just walking out and say a word,
Yeah.
And that's what you want in a manager that shines a spotlight on his guys, but also still gets a ton of heat
Yeah.
when they're in front of the camera. So I
Yeah.
really like that a lot. Yeah. What was the decision behind you leaving Jake and going more towards Don? Do they have
Wasn't really my decision. It was one of those
yeah,
things where it
okay.
was like,
So it was behind the
this
scenes, of course.
behind the scenes, this is going
Yeah.
to happen. Jake had, I think Jake's doing well now. He hasn't been on the road in a long time, but Jake had
Mhm.
battled a lot of health issues
Okay.
that he's gone through. I think he's doing really well now. He still goes
Mhm.
and does a lot of like appearances and whatnot. But as
Right.
far as traveling on a weekly basis to different
Yeah.
cities on the road, you know
Traveling.
how hard that can be. And
Yeah.
like I said, he battled a lot of health issues, and it's none of my business to put his business out there. I
No,
think a lot
no,
of
no,
that's
no.
pretty
Absolutely
pretty
not.
public. But I
Yeah,
think that's kind of where the thought process was,
yeah, okay.
he wasn't on the road. I
Sure.
was.
That
Don
makes
saw something in me and wanted me a part of the group, so they created the storyline that led to me being with him.
makes perfect sense. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
And giving Don that
Go ahead,
chance
Tom.
to shine as well. I mean, Don is such an incredible, as Bryan said, a proper heat-seeking talent.
Yeah. Yep. Big
To
time.
be able to bring him back to prominence is fantastic. He's just such the all-round package.
Yep.
From a chicken shit heel to just absolute perfection on that microphone. We
Yep.
applaud you, Mr. Callis, and yeah, there's always an invitation for a Don Callis family introduction. Me and Bryan will probably jump at that one, with brother. We'll be there. Now,
Yeah, I'm
speaking,
looking. Yeah,
go on, brother. Go
no,
for it. Go.
I'm just saying. I had a blast going to Tucson. I was a guest with Justin Roberts, of course, and he's up in Scottsdale, and he invited me down, and I got to see Lance, of course, and got to
Yep.
meet a lot of guys. I would love to have met a lot more, and hopefully next time you guys are in town, we can get together. But
For
yeah, I
sure.
watched a good part of the show, and it was very exciting. And I hadn't been backstage. It had to be, feels like 20 years at least. And so yeah, it was a good time. I got to meet Tony. He came out and shook my hand, and we chatted
Yep.
up a little bit. And so very cool, man. I really did I had a great time. I just wanted to pass that on and let you know.
Good.
Uh,
It was good seeing
and
you.
yeah, man. And hopefully, I'm sure I'll see you again. Are you at Squared Circle in Indy next week or
No.
no? Okay, well, I'm sure I'll see you somewhere down the line. Absolutely. And we covered your upcoming movie, which is, man, that's going to be great.
Yeah.
For
I
you
hope so.
guys to
It's
get that.
not my movie, but I'll
Well,
be in
but you're in it.
it.
But that's what I say. Well, I was in
Hopefully.
Mortal Kombat long as I was in it. You know what I'm saying? I get it. So
Right.
that's a very
Right.
cool
Right.
thing that you've done. It might be a small bucket list check. There could be a
Yes.
bigger one
Yes.
down the line, but still,
Hopefully.
that's a phenomenal thing for you to be in such a great director's film. So is what my point was there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tomcat, you got any other questions for our guest today?
I have got the perfect way to close out our show,
Oh,
and that being our final game show aspect, as we are going
Uh-oh.
to ignite the fire with some rapid fire, no
okay.
overthinking questions. So it's just going to be a complete chaotic smorgasbord of random bits that I'm going to fire at you that would
Okay.
suit your personality of the Murderhawk Monster. So
Let's do it.
let's get ready to ignite that flame and find out how quick we can go. Right, the timer has begun. Let's start it off. Chops or super kicks?
Chops.
Entrance smoke or pyro?
Pyro.
Heel turn or surprise return?
Heel turn.
Ooh, pre-match hype music or silence?
Prehab hype
Yeah,
music.
Yep.
ECW or WCW?
WCW for me.
Okay, we're going over with Chronic. Steel cage or ladder match?
Steel cage.
Favorite cheat meal?
Hamburger.
That's a good shout. That's a good shout. In fact, everyone that we played this game with has gone hamburger or cheeseburger. Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
What's your go-to drink order?
Alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Whatever you want, brother. It's your show.
Well, my alcoholic drink, and I don't drink a lot, but it's called the Dirty Doctor. It's usually a Diet Dr. Pepper and whiskey.
Oh,
Ooh, okay. We're going to have to be checking that out, and yeah, we're going to give a little brush to Dr. Death Steve Williams, the original Dirty Doctor. Go-to karaoke song.
Pour some sugar on me.
Oh, yes.
Def Leppard.
What an absolute belter. Let's carry on. Would you time travel backwards or forwards?
Forward.
To
100 years.
okay, see what's dropping in 100 years. See if we keep him fresh. Jake Roberts or Don Callis?
Just because Jake brought me into AEW, I'll go with Jake.
Okay, I thought I'd drop that in just slightly there. Let's take a look. Anyone throughout history you would have loved to have had a program with?
For wrestling wise?
Yes.
Oh man, that's too much. I mean, Undertaker, obviously, Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, guys like that.
There's a Mount Rushmore up to there. Love that.
Right
and of course, the creation of Devastation, right?
Absolutely.
I heard you say that. I heard you say that.
I did.
Yeah. What's the weirdest thing you carry in your gear bag?
What's the weirdest thing I carry in my gear bag?
Yep.
I don't think I carry anything weird in there.
It's all business.
It's all business. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like Steve McMichael's Halliburton. That definitely had some weird stuff in it. Favorite swear word?
Fuck.
Yeah, that's the case with most of us. What was the last thing you Googled?
The last thing I Googled? What was the last thing I Googled? Oh, quad amputee. Quad amputee charged with murder.
Okay, I think we're just going to have to put a pin in this.
Yes, it just happened.
What was the result of that, brother? Were they guilty or not guilty?
They just did it recently, I guess. He's the quad amputee, no arms, no legs, and he shot somebody and killed them.
Shit, how did he shoot them? My lord above.
I think he still has the little trigger finger.
Oh wow.
I'm not making fun. I'm just saying. So that's
no,
yeah.
Not at all. I mean, not at all. But it's just that I think it's the ridiculousness of the situation. As we build this show and put graphics in, I'm going to see if I can find it. So it was. Ladies and gentlemen, give a massive round of applause. This incredible job of rapid fire. Woo! Oh, Bryan, how do you want to wrap things up, brother?
Yeah, man, I just want to say thank you so much, Lance, for taking this time today, and we really appreciate you coming on and giving us some great stories and just some of the things that are happening with you and AEW and throughout your career, man. Just let you know, I've always been a big fan of your work, and just again, thank you so much for spending the time with us and tell your boss that we appreciate interviewing the AEW guys, and you guys are always welcome on the Meltdown.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you guys having me on and giving me a voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, he can be seen on myaw.com and wherever you can check out Dynamite and Collision each week. Ladies, gentlemen, put your hands together for the Murderhawk Monster. It's Lance Archer! He is the Murderhawk Monster, and he just took us into chaos and reminded us that everybody dies. What an incredible guest, Bryan. We are continuing to bring in the biggest stars from around the world, and there is no bigger than AEW's Lance Archer. What a guest, brother. What a guest.
I know. I mean, I would ask you how you do it by saying shoes ain't cheap.
And booking ain't easy. You know it. Let's knock it out of the park. Let's take
I had to set him up a little bit for that one, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah. Hey, did you ask what I'm having and what beverage I'm sipping on here, Tomcat?
Well, that's what next was going to come out of my mouth as we take a little swig for the working man. What's in your coffee cup?
Listen, this is the Blackout 1776 Dark Roast by veterans, made by veterans in the U.S. It is coffee with values. And if you want a value, check out the Meltdown sponsorship program here. Tomcat and the Bomber are always waiting for that call. The Blackout 1776, again, a fantastic roast. If you guys are a morning or afternoon coffee drinker, this is your go-to spot right here.
Blackout 1776. And what a fitting name, considering that Lance Archer's finishing move is the Blackout. It ties hand in hand, right, brother? All you need to do, pick up that phone. The Meltdown sponsorship program is now officially active. We'd love to hear from you. And speaking of hearing from you, we've heard from so many of our incredible listeners over this past 7 days. Let's put a little shine on the Meltdown maniacs that are out there. That's right, brother. Let's hear it.
All right, let's start out with Aaron Spalding, who is from Mesa, Arizona. He's on his way right now to Europe with his wife, and they're going to have a fantastic trip. Big shout out to him. He said he's going to watch the show while he's on the plane or listen to it, either when he lands. So that's great. We're looking forward to that. But of course, our own Jonathan O'Dwyer, Giorgio, Lucy, comic book guy. And also let's congratulate Melissa, who is starting her fitness journey. And then also our very own Tomcat, who is getting fit for Florida. Am I right?
We're getting there, brother. We're getting there. You know where I am right now? I started about 3 weeks ago. Currently 8 pounds down. That's pretty good.
Good job, man.
I'm
Awesome.
proud of myself. Also proud of my beautiful wife, Gemma. She's doing a sensational job. We are going to be fit for Florida. Also want to send out a big shout out to Lee Oliver. He actually sent me a clip of one of the past shows. Remember when we were talking about the hair? He just sent me a clip of that particular spot and was like, good memory. Lee, well done, brother. Yes, we do. We remember it like elephants. We don't forget. We don't. We'll keep the Meltdown train a-rolling because we are going to continue to come at you fast, with speed, with great velocity, and with the force of a lightning bolt, as we are going to present to you some of the biggest names in professional wrestling. We're going to carry on this trend of AEW talent. We are going to touch upon some iconic moments and revisit them from the 80s, 90s, and noughties, and take a nice little shine on today's products as well. We're going to relive some classic content and give you an extra commentary track. There are so many layers to the Meltdown onion. We want to find out from you what your favorite aspects of our show are. So please do leave us a little comment in the section below. As we're talking about comments, as we're talking about your interaction, please make sure that if you've headed over to youtube.com/@realbrianclark, that is the home of the Meltdown. That's where you can get your weekly dose, and we might be even increasing that with smaller, different clip-sized videos that we're going to upload throughout the course of the week to just give you little gems here and there that you can just, if you got 5 minutes, have a little story from Davey Boy Smith Jr. You got 8 minutes here, have a little chat with Jimmy Corderas. You want to hear about Earl Hebner's stories? You want to feature Mark Marrow? You want to feel about the intense regimes of the one and only machine, Brian Cage? It's coming to the Meltdown page real soon. But make sure you click subscribe, ring that notification bell, and hit us that thumbs up like. It goes such a long way to putting us in the faces of other viable listeners, and that's exactly what we want. We want to build this show for you. Follow us on our social media platforms. You can hit us up at The Meltdown Official. That's our official Instagram page. You can hit him up at Bryan Clark 3X Champ. Hit the Tomcat up at Tom Finkill. Wherever you get your social media fix, you can find either one of us. And we like to talk pro wrestling, the world of entertainment, and sports in general. Hit us up. You might get a nice little reply. But from me over here in Manchester, I think this is a nice way to wrap up the show. So give us all your feedback. Let us know what you want. That fire is always burning. And as Brian dropped in a little bit earlier on, remember, it's same Meltdown time, same Meltdown channel. Shoes ain't cheap. Booking ain't easy. We're going to see you next week. A boom.